Right. Okay, guys, we're finally doing it. So, welcome to an episode of She Knows Ball, where me, aka Kaya, aka Kai Body, aka Mrs. She Knows Ball, talks everything football, Premier League, and fantasy Premier League football. Now, guys, I know, don't shoot me. I was literally supposed to start releasing my FPL videos and my pre-match analysis and post-match analysis the beginning of the season, as in game week 1, but there was just so much going on, and so I just thought it would be easier to basically put my videos on social media instead, like TikTok and Instagram, because they're a bit more low effort. You can quickly do them, you can quickly just edit them and then upload them, and it's a bit more low effort vibes. But I thought with YouTube it's going to be a whole thing with getting the recording a whole long video, or getting the YouTube name correct, for instance, or getting the thumbnail correct. And so so if you do follow me on social media, on TikTok and Instagram, then you would have been seeing that I have been uploading a few football videos, particularly FPL videos, discussing which transfers to bring in for that particular game week. So shout out the person who actually commented. I don't know if you guys have seen, but one of my videos went, I wouldn't say viral, but it got a lot of traction. I might pin it here or something like that. And someone actually commented and was like, finally a Friday night FPL wine session where someone is just discussing football on a Friday night, drinking wine. And you know what, shout out whoever commented that, because that actually gave me the push that I needed to actually get my podcast or show, whatever you want to call it, up and running on YouTube. So yeah, here we are. Welcome to She Knows Ball, where I will be discussing all things football, whether that's pre-match analysis, post-match analysis, FPL tips, FBL transfers, keeping you up to date on what's happening with my team, just industry and market reactions to what's going on in football, because listen, football is constantly changing. There's a new story breaking every day, and so it's a lot to keep up with. And so I'm really looking forward to just giving you guys a taste of my reactions and what I genuinely think. And trust me, baby, I know ball, so don't underestimate what it is that I know. But I guess that's why you're here, because you're ready to just about ball, right? So there's going to be a separate video on FPL, because I think it's just going to make my video a bit too long. And so I think I'm going to have a little breakdowns separate from my FPL talk. But yeah, this is pretty much just a good introduction on me to YouTube. So can we get a cheers to that, please? Because yeah, I feel like YouTube is really daunting. With TikTok and Instagram, it's easier. You can just pretty much just do your thing, you're used to your followers. But with YouTube, it's more of a branding. It's oh my god, I'm actually being released into the world. But anyways, have no fear, Mrs. She Knows Ball is here. Okay, so in fact, let's even just get straight into it. We straight away got to discuss what's been happening in football right now, and it is the talk of the town at the moment. It is making all headlines, and that is Man United being knocked out of the Carabao Cup by League 2 division side Grimsby. Yeah, you actually heard correctly. Man United have been knocked out of a cup, of a competition in August. We're not in September. We're not in October. We are actually in August. It's like the season just started, and every time I feel like Man United can't reach a new low, or every time I feel like Man United have hit rock bottom, they hit another bottom of the rock of the bottom of the rock. They reach for a new low that nobody has seen before. It's like they're digging for the soil underneath the rock at this point, and it's just like, what the hell is actually going on? So yeah, Man United fans are literally losing their heads at the moment, and I genuinely don't blame them, because at this point it's kind of like, what does United do at this point? Because I feel like they are starting to reach a very critical situation. And before this season actually started, you know, I was actually on the opposite end of things. So, you know, a lot of people had written Man United off and thought, you know, they had a really bad season last season, nothing's gonna give, they're still gonna be, you know, quite rubbish leading into the season. But, you know, when they signed Mbeumo and Cunha, I still was a bit unsure, don't get me wrong, because I am a massive fan of Mbeumo. You know, I really liked him at Brentford. I thought he was a great player, and I was a bit annoyed with him at the fact that he decided to make the transfer to United, because I feel like everybody knows that at this point going to United is career suicide, right? So I was just thinking, why on God's earth would he do that? But whatever. But after seeing them play their pre-season game against Everton, and then obviously seeing them play the first game of the season against Arsenal, I actually didn't think that United looked too bad. I thought, rah, they're starting to look like a good side. I feel like they're coming together, and Mbeumo and Cunha actually look like United players. So what I think you guys should understand what I mean when I say United players. I don't know what it is. I feel like United players have a certain type of look when it comes to it. It's like they want to be here. They just have that certain je ne sais quoi or certain flair, and they actually look like they're enjoying playing for the club, and that they're really happy to be here. I think United have had, you know, one of their problems is the fact that a lot of their players don't look like United players, if that makes sense. They keep ending up in situations where they are buying players for a horrific amount of money for players that actually don't really want to play for the club, or they just don't look like United players. So for instance, who would I say it just didn't give United player? I don't know, maybe we'll come on to that in another topic, but I mean in another section of this episode. But yeah, it was a nightmare start for United this season in the worst possible way. But yeah, as I said, I was actually rooting for United to do well. I didn't think that they actually looked bad. And so I'm quite disappointed in them in that sense, because I don't know if you saw, well, if you have me on TikTok, you would have seen that I made an FPL video on why FPL players should invest in United, such as Mbeumo and Cunha, possibly getting them into the midfield in their team. And that's because they genuinely looked like a threat when they were playing Everton, when they played Arsenal. It's just the fact that they just couldn't really seal the deal in the final third. But yeah, it's a shame that it was Mbeumo that ended up missing that penalty. I don't really feel like, you know, United fans should go at him like crazy. To be fair, I do feel like they're more so coming for Onana. And I think this is another problem that United fans and the media are having in this respect. I feel as though each time United lose, or when something's going wrong at the club, they start looking for someone to blame. And I think right now the scapegoat is Onana. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he's a 5-star keeper. I'm not saying he's the greatest. Actually, I don't think there's actually that many great Premier League goalkeepers right now. Bar Raya, bar Alisson, bar Nick Pope, or even Jordan Pickford. He's a great penalty saver. But yeah, it's a bit of a difficult one because I feel like they're looking for a new scapegoat. United fans and the media have done this thing where they always look for someone to blame. And so, for instance, they done it with Rashford, but they can't really blame him no more. He's gone to Barcelona. They blamed Sancho. Can't really blame him right now. He's gone. They blamed Garnacho. I think Chelsea have just agreed a deal for him. He's gone. Can't blame him. They tried to blame, what's the other guy's name? Højlund. He's nowhere to be found. He's not on the bench. You know, they tried to blame Ronaldo. Ronaldo tried to tell everybody in an interview, and that kicked up a storm, and everybody looked down upon that, and everyone saw that as, you know, him being treacherous and whatnot. He tried to tell you guys, and, you know, tried to blame him too. Given his age, I wasn't really sure why they would try to do that. But anyways, you've also tried to blame, you know, Scott McTominay. He's gone. And at one point, you guys tried to blame Harry Maguire. But luckily, he's, you know, been reintegrated into the club. Which, you know, I'm happy for him because, you know, there was a point in time where I think, you know, it looked like his Manchester United career was over. So yeah, I'm happy for him in that sense. Yeah, I feel like the media and United fans have tried to blame other people. So Pogba, Lukaku, and then not to mention the managers. So only God knows how many managers you guys have gone through and who you guys have been blaming, type of thing. And the media have been blaming, not just United fans. And so at this point, I think it's much deeper than Onana. I think it goes far deeper than that. I think he's just the scapegoat in many aspects. And I think that, you know, I don't really know what is the next stage for United. You know, I don't think I have seen a club reach the level of low that they have gotten to. I mean, when Chelsea were in their, you know, low stages, I don't think they looked that bad. And even when Arsenal were going through their rebuilding phase, I still don't think they even looked that bad. And so it's a bit of a difficult one because are people gonna say, you know, that Amorim should be sacked? I mean, another manager sacked, really? And then at this point, who is even going to want to come in? Because at this point, it seems to be career suicide again if he was to take a managerial job at Manchester United. I mean, it didn't work with Mourinho. It didn't work with Van Gaal. It didn't work with Erik ten Hag. It didn't work with David Moyes. So it's like, at what point, like, something else has got to give. And so I don't really know what. So United fans, comment below if you think that Amorim should get the sack or if he should even walk. You know, I don't think I've actually seen a scenario where a manager just walks on his own accord. I've heard terms and phrases where people say things like mutual consent and things like that. But I don't think I've actually seen a manager actually just walk out of his contract. I think that's quite rare. So yeah. I don't know, Amorim's been in this job for about 10 months now. I think that is a solid amount of time. But with the project that United need, I don't think that is enough time. I would personally give Amorim till the end of the season to see what can be done, because at this point, they're not in Europe. And so you need to actually be climbing a league, because what else are you training for? You have no other games, kind of thing. But if it gets to a situation where in January it's still looking dire, then I think, you know, United have no other option but to look elsewhere. But again, I think it's bigger than Amorim. I know Gary Neville bangs on about it all the time, but he's actually right in the sense where, you know, you've got to look at the infrastructure and the hierarchy, because something else has got to give. And like, just losing to Grimsby on a penalty shoot. Do you know what? Actually, shout out to Grimsby, because I feel like they actually played really, really well. And I think had United won that penalty shootout, it would have been an injustice to Grimsby. And so I think it was a fair result, and it's allowing the areas that need to be addressed at Man United to be addressed, if that makes sense. And, you know, I think one of the key things in that shootout that just, it shows the level of Manchester United is the fact that Sesko, you know, actually hid away from taking a penalty first, which I found quite odd. I mean, you let all of the outfield players take a penalty before you, but you're meant to be the main man. You're meant to be the striker. You're supposed to be up there, up first, taking a penalty, taking one for the team, and, you know, showing the fans, showing the owners that, yep, you spent 70 odd mil or so, or however much they paid for him, and I'm here, and I'm ready to do a good job, and I'm ready to get you guys out of the mud and help you get out of the hood and the mess that you're in. And the fact that he didn't do that just speaks volumes, and it just shows, again, when I spoke about someone not being a United player, I think that's exactly what I meant. It's not given a United player. A United player are those like the Nevilles, the Roy Keanes, for instance. You can see that United runs in their blood kind of thing. And I just feel like there's just a lot of players where it's so obvious to see that, you know, the United, it just doesn't run in their blood. And so when you contrast that with, you know, Leeds' game against Arsenal last week, you know, the wonderful wonder kid Max Dowman won a brilliant penalty for Arsenal, and immediately Arsenal's new signing Gyökeres wanted to straight away go up and take that penalty, because he's thinking, unlike, you know, the others, he's thinking, listen, I've got stats to run up, I've got a league to win, and I've got a golden boot to win. Simple as that. And that's what you want. You want that winning mentality. You want someone that's going to be able to say, listen, I'm here, I've arrived, and I'm ready to do the job that I got paid for. I'm here to be a number 9, and I think that's what you guys need. You know, I think there was even a tweet, I'll probably clip it up on here, where someone said that you know, it looked like Rice was contemplating giving the penalty, giving the ball to Max Dowman so Dowman can take the penalty instead, but Gyökeres was swarming around Rice and was like, no. Hey, you guys bought me to score goals, and that's why I'm here. And I completely rate that. And I feel like those are the type of players that United need at their club. But the problem is that they've dug such a deep hole for themselves, and they've become a club where nobody wants to go, because look at the situation of Rashford, Sancho. It's become a place where they are ruining players' careers, and so nobody technically actually wants to go there, and it's a sad situation, really. So yeah, United have reached a new low with them losing to Grimsby Town, a League 2 division side. So yeah, United fans, comment below and let me know what you think about the game, what you think should happen in terms of Amorim, who you think should be sold. Well, to be fair, I've just seen breaking news that Garnacho's heading off to Chelsea. So let's actually see what Garnacho does there, because you know, I don't think Garnacho's a bad player. Again, I think just the situation sometimes at United, it just makes a lot of players just look like they've never kicked a ball in their life. I think it's also the culture. If you contrast it to other clubs, you can see clearly that there is a culture. So if you look at Liverpool, there's a clear culture. Do you know what I mean? So, next topic. Obviously, everyone's aware of, you know, the situation that's been going on with Newcastle and Isak. You know, it's a situation where I can understand where both parties, you know, how both parties are feeling. You know, I definitely see both sides of, you know, the story. I definitely see both perspectives. I mean, you've got a football club where they need their star player, to put it quite frankly. You know, Newcastle are in the Champions League. They've got a lot to play for this season, and they've got a lot of games, and so they're going to need their main man up front. There's no doubt about it. And, you know, given the fact that, you know, they drew the first game against Aston Villa, they then lost to Liverpool, and then, you know, Liverpool, I mean, what's his name? Anthony Gordon picked up a red card against, Anthony Gordon picked up a red card with it in that match. So now they haven't got Anthony Gordon for a few games. And so, you know, the attacking options at Newcastle are quite limited. And so I completely understand why it is that Newcastle do not want to let go of Isak. But at the same time, I kind of understand where Isak's coming from, in a sense where he feels aggrieved in the fact that, you know, he's said, well, he's put out a public statement and, you know, alleged that the club have made some promises, basically saying that he would be sold this season, and now they don't want to abide by those promises. So I also do get his side of the story. Obviously, it's not a nice situation for anyone. It's not a nice situation for the club, for Isak, for the fans, because it just, you know, it puts over a cloud of uncertainty against, you know, around the club. And so everything that the club does, so when they have a game, it's always about Isak. They can't actually fully concentrate as a team, and so it's not nice. But I do want to touch upon the fact of that there is a hypocrisy in football. And so where do we kind of draw the line? Because when a football club is ready to get rid of a player, so for instance, we see with Donnarumma and PSG, you know, they're ready to just let him go and they don't want him to play anymore. And so, you know, his contract's not up, but they're just ready to say, yeah, we don't want you to play again, which isn't nice and which isn't, you know, totally fair. But how comes Premier League clubs are, you know, able to do that, but when it comes to a player who wants to take, you know, a stance in his career and make a reasonable judgment for his future prospects. So yeah, we've had instances with, you know, these instances with Isak and Yoane Wissa where, you know, Wissa's also, you know, making a very definitive statement, in a sense where he is refusing to train for Brentford so that he can make the move to Newcastle. And so I get it in the sense where if players continue to do that, it kind of opens the floodgates for other players to kind of just not treat their contracts with the football club with the level of respect that it deserves. And so who knows what it might happen down the line in the future. You might just get all sorts of players saying, oh, well, I'm not coming to training, even if they've got a really, really big game coming up. So it's a bit of a weird one. But I have just seen breaking news that the Isak deal is looking more and more likely, which is good because, you know, I feel like it puts this situation to bed, which was badly needed. I think it wasn't really good for the club or for the player because, yeah, it would have been very, very difficult to force a player to play at a club where he didn't want to be, because then it's like, so what, is he going to start? Is he going to be on the bench? Is he putting his effort into this? Would you play at someone that doesn't want to play for the club in a Champions League quarter-final, let's say, hypothetically? So yeah, it just looks really, really bad. But I know that the director or whoever it was that went to Isak's house is just saying, please stay for one more season. Just for one more season until we get our books in order, until we get the striker that we want. But yeah, I've just seen breaking news that Newcastle have actually bidded for a striker for I think about 60 million. And so I think, yeah, they are preparing for Isak to leave. So it looks like both parties are getting what they want. So maybe the way that Isak went about it is the right way to do it. Who actually knows? So yeah, but I actually don't feel as though Liverpool actually even need this particular transfer. I think what they've got in Ekitike is more than enough. I think Ekitike is looking solid. You know, I spoke about him on my FPL TikToks. You know, that's what, 2 and 2 for him. So he is on fire right now. He's on form. I think what Liverpool actually need to address is their defense. They're looking pretty shaky at the back. So to be fair, I don't genuinely see why they need Isak, but maybe they're just trying to, you know, really solidify their position in the league and their position when they start playing Champions League football. So who knows? It's going to be very, very interesting to see the Liverpool and Arsenal game coming up. I think I'm going to get into predictions later for the game week 3 that we're about to head into. So stay tuned for that. But another topic that I even wanted to touch on is Arsenal's game against Leeds. So, you know, I actually feel like it was a really good game of football. You know, I think Gyökeres looked really good, and it's just unfortunate that Saka and Odegaard got injured during that game. I think if Saka was able to stay fit during that match, then I think I could have anticipate him getting way more goals. And so, yeah, it was a shame to see him come off. But it was nice to see Gyökeres, get off the mark and do a little celebration to the people that were criticising him, in the sense of, where people were saying that he plays with his hair too much and stuff like that. But yeah, Arsenal are looking good. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how they play against Liverpool. They've just signed Eze, which I think is a great signing for Arsenal. And so I do think Arsenal are probably going to go for where they play Eze on the left and then they move Noni Madueke to the right, obviously in Saka's absence. And so, yeah, it will be a really, really interesting game, that one. So I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, that was good. Yeah. My camera keeps overheating, or then it starts dying, guys. So yeah, welcome to camera life. So I can't even remember what I was talking about last. But I do want to say, can we please get into Simon Jordan's comments about Isak on TalkSport this week? I mean, listen, I feel like you can give your commentary, your punditry, whatever you want to call it, but I feel like Simon Jordan just went a little bit too ham this week. Like, I feel like it sounded a bit too personal. The adjectives that he was using to describe Isak and Wissa just sounded a little bit too... Like, it seemed like he was in his feelings. Like, he was really, really angry about it. And listen, don't get me wrong, we're all entitled to our own opinions, but I just feel like he needed to exercise just a little bit of decorum. And don't get me wrong, I really, really like Simon Jordan. Like, I live for his takes. I feel like he articulates himself very, very well. He's very cohesive with his structured arguments and stuff like that. But I just feel like he just got a bit overexcited with this Isak drama. And I don't really think this Isak drama was that serious for him to go that in, if I'm being honest. I feel like he could have kept some of his comments to himself. But yeah, let me know what you think about what Simon Jordan was saying about Isak in those comments. And yeah, we can have a whole load of discussion. I did post something on TikTok about it. So yeah, let me know what you think. So what else is there to talk about this week on She Knows Ball? I think what we're actually going to do is we're going to get into my predictions for this game week before my camera dies again. It's been really fun talking to you lot, though. I'm not going to lie, like, I've really been enjoying it, and I don't know why I haven't started this sooner. But shout out to the person that DM'd me and was like, I love your football takes, like, you really need to start a podcast. So here we are. The podcast is here. So you better get your wine glass and start drinking with me, because it's going to be a long, long season, okay? It's going to be, well, if you're a United fan, it's going to be even longer. For the normal fans, it's already a long season. But for the United fans, better load up your bottles, because it's going to be, you're going to need it. So let's get into my game week predictions for this week. So what game week are we on? We're in game week 3, right? Yeah, let's go for it. So first, we have got, and this is actually, I've not actually premeditated this or anything, like I've not thought about it, I'm literally just, yeah, just seeing what I feel, because usually I like going off of gut instinct. I feel like gut instinct is really, really key, and so yeah, that's what I'm going to be using right now. So Chelsea versus Fulham. Chelsea have been looking good. Well, they looked good against West Ham, should I say, but West Ham are even terrible. I don't think Chelsea looked that great against Crystal Palace, and Fulham are a better team than West Ham right now, and so I'm going to guess that Chelsea are either going to scrape a win or it's going to be a draw. So then, yeah, Man United versus Burnley. Okay, now this is going to be very, very steep. I'm not going to lie, because, this is going to be a bit of a tricky one, because I feel like United coming out of their loss right now, you know, I feel like the fans at Old Trafford are going to be very, very hostile. I feel like the environment is going to be very, very hostile. And if United do not win this game against Burnley, I feel like it's going to kick off. It is most definitely going to kick off. But you know what? What's worse than losing to Grimsby? Surely it can't get worse. So I'm going to go for Man United get their first win of the season at home against Burnley. But if they do, it's going to be wonder. It's going to be, I don't know, God had to intervene at that point. So we've got Sunderland versus Brentford. I see this being like a 0-0 game. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a bit of it's a tough one. Or I do see Brentford winning. I'm not gonna lie. And then Spurs versus Bournemouth. Oh, okay, now this is going to be such a good game. Obviously, Spurs are on mad form right now, but Bournemouth are not a bad team. And, you know, Semenyo does love a little 1-2-1-2. But I think it's either going to be a Spurs win or a draw. I think Spurs are doing well. And, you know, I don't mind them doing well. They seem to be having a good time, so rock on. Wolves versus Everton. I'm going to go with Everton. I think Wolves are struggling right now. They just don't really look like they have it all the way there. And so I'm going to go for Everton. Leeds versus Newcastle. That's a good one. It's going to be really difficult to predict because obviously they don't have Anthony Gordon right now. They also don't have Isak. I feel like Elanga's going to be quite isolated. I mean, they can slot Barnes in, but I just feel like it's just a bit much at the moment. It's going to be hard. But I see that being a draw or a Leeds win. I think Newcastle are kind of going through it right now, and it's just a bit, yeah, it's a bit, I'm going to give it to Leeds. Then we've got Brighton versus City. I think City are going to win that one. Nottingham Forest versus West Ham. I see Forest winning that. I think, Forest are looking really good. And West Ham, they're just not really doing too well at the moment. And so I see Nottingham Forest sealing a win in that game. Now, Liverpool versus Arsenal. You know what? Had Saka and Odegaard been playing, yeah? And then obviously Arsenal then started Eze. I do feel as though Arsenal would have won that game. I'm not going to lie to you. I feel like Arsenal would have won that game. But with Saka and Odegaard out, it's a bit of a tricky one. I do like the fact that Arteta now has, instead of it being Pep roulette, it's now become Arteta roulette. I do like the fact that, you know, Arteta does have some options and he now has the power of being able to rotate. It's a bit of a sticky one. I'm not gonna lie, it's actually crazy, but I'm gonna either go for a draw or an Arsenal win. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I said it. There, I said it. And then last but not least, we've got Aston Villa versus Crystal Palace. Ooh, this is going to be a good game. I feel like there's a lot of draws coming up. But I feel like Crystal Palace are going to struggle without Eze. I'm not going to lie. They're going to struggle without Eze. And so, again, I think it's going to be either a draw or an Aston Villa win. Yeah, I said it. There, I said it. But yeah, that is the latest for game week 3 so far. But yeah, stay tuned for my other video where I'm actually going to get into FPL. So all the transfers that need to be made, or any suggestions that you've got, well, suggestions that I've got for you guys to transfer in for that particular game week. Who to bloody transfer out? Cough, cough, Palmer, if you've got him. And yeah, just giving you guys some FPL tips and whatnot. But yeah, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, because we are going to be sipping wine and talking football and FPL all season, literally, like. And so don't get too drunk on my channel now, chat. Everybody drink responsibly. As you know, drink responsibly. But yeah, so like, comment and subscribe, and then head over to my next video where I break down game week 3 for FPL, how to set up your team, who to avoid and who to transfer in. So yeah, that is the first episode wrapped up of She Knows Ball. Let me know in the comments what you think. I should be giving some post-match analysis as well for this season too. Let me know if you want to see that, or if you want me to shut up, and if you don't want to see that too. But as I said, grab yourself a bottle of wine and sit down and get cozy with Mrs. She Knows Ball. Cheers.